Hey everyone and welcome to another Warframe video. Today's a little bit different as I wanted to talk about something I've been doing on stream recently, which is that I have gone back, I've restarted Warframe with a completely new account just to try and get a feel for how the new player experience is and whether I feel there are things I feel could be improved. This is going to be a pretty talky video, so I'm just going to pop some Sarin ESO footage up in the background while we chat. The new player experience when I started the game was pretty much as bare bones as it could possibly be. Nothing was explained, there was no real focus, no real direction as to what to go on and do next. This is definitely something that has improved since I first started. Junctions to aim for and to progress, each of them unlocking quests, and shows a reasonably clear path of progression. However, I do feel there is still a real lack of actual direction as to what to do and how to actually progress. Let's take the mastery system for example. It is a fundamental core feature of the game, even more so now that weapons got tiered by mastery rank. However, I cannot find anywhere whatsoever in the game that actually explains how the mastery system works whatsoever. You have weapons, frames, quests, nodes, like mission nodes, all tied into the mastery system, and without googling and wikiing how the mastery system even works, the game doesn't give you any real indication whatsoever of how to progress through such a core system. It doesn't take too long to get the hang of it, thankfully. However, early on I feel there should be something to actually guide you through mastery and a clear progression of the actual mastery system. For example, I would love to see a Nightwave style UI, however where the rewards are, you could be able to click on the mastery rank. That opens up a box where the challenges are in Nightwave, and that shows you what you unlock at that mastery. So say for example I click Mastery 11, it then shows what weapons, nodes, quests I unlock at that mastery rank, without having to Google, without having to search through the market or whatever, without going to the wiki, without going out of the game. It helps with that feeling progression, but keeps you involved with the game itself, inside the game. Rather than having to, like I say, tab out every 5 minutes trying to search the wiki for what you're going to unlock at what rank. As a bit of a side note to this though, the market does show the mastery ranks of weapons that are mastery locked on the UI of the market. However, there is no option at all to sort by mastery, which I think would be hugely beneficial to someone checking it and seeing what they have unlocked and what they have available to actually buy. Adding onto that whole idea of progression, I'd love to see each planet get their own kind of mini planetary storyline. Right now, in all honesty, the majority of the planets feel like a whole load of disconnected missions that do nothing more than sabotage planetary forces just for the sake of it. Most of them don't have any real explanation as to what you're doing or why, or any lore behind the planet whatsoever. This all ends up with the star map feeling like a bit of a slog to clear through and doesn't drive player engagement whatsoever. I'm not even wanting to see something like a cinematic quest. Just something similar to what was done with like the Jupiter tile set, where Ordis gives little sound bites talking about the reason for the sabotage mission and what the implications are of actually failing it. Little bits like that on some of the planets would be really cool. And explaining the events of the Battle of Europa, how the ship was brought down, or a bit of the history about the shipyards of Ceres and the ramifications of us failing a mission and not sabotaging or hijacking a core or something. Like even the way the Fortuna orb bounties was done, that would be even better. A series of missions connected to each other that have a real sense of meaning. Right now, aside from the quests and the open worlds, which are fantastic, the world kind of feels flat and one-dimensional to me. Building up the world, making it feel alive, making it feel like it has a real history, would be hugely beneficial while actually playing it through, rather than feeling like it's just a series of completely unconnected missions in between quests. I get that the feeling of this is... Well, I get the feeling basically this is a rather unlikely change in the grand scheme of things, because we're all wanting new content, so going back and fleshing out existing content isn't something that's going to satisfy the crowd of us that have done everything and need a new challenge. That being said, I do think it is something that would actually enhance the overall experience of the game from a new player from start to finish. Now, the beginning of the game is actually also super rough as a new player. You get no visual clue as to what's realistic as your level, because so much of it is mod related, especially since, unlike a lot of other games that use enemy levels, Warframes do not coincide with the weapon or frame levels whatsoever. So say for example you've got a level 30 weapon and a level 30 frame, but your mods are terrible, you're going to struggle with content that's half your level, which as a new player I can imagine that is not only frustrating, but very confusing as well. Not only that, but you've got two of the starter frames, which are Mag and Volt, who rely a lot on their abilities for survivability, yet there's no energy generation of any sort for a really long time. Same goes with healing. There's absolutely no health regeneration mods for a really long time either, unless you luck out and manage to see it in the Nightwave rotation and you still have the creds to buy it. Nightwave early on is actually very hard to progress on as a new character. But I would like to see at the start of the game you either get a choice between Energy Siphon and Rejuvenation, or even get both as a part of the introduction to modding. These two mods are ones that realistically most players replace fairly quickly when they get access to like Corrosive Projection or Steel Charge or Growing Power, so it's not a huge spike in power to give access to these mods early on. This would not only help you get to cast your abilities more than once in a blue moon, which to me feels a lot more like Warframe. At the start, in all honesty, with the amount of times you get to cast your abilities, Warframe feels nothing more than a third-person shooter with the odd ability cast, which doesn't feel like Warframe to me. Having some Energy Siphon, getting a bit of energy back, would actually mean you could cast your abilities a bit more regularly, and for me, would absolutely feel a lot more like Warframe. But even Rejuvenation, being able to heal some of your health back, would be so useful because you've got no healing at all. It really would help a lot. Not only that though, but it would also help quite a bit with the complete pain which is early game modding. That actually segues kind of really nicely onto my next point, mod deranking. This has always been something that community has requested, and I've seen it mentioned a lot. But more as a thing for more endgame builds to have more build variety to not need multiples of the same mod. However, this would actually be more beneficial in the early game where modding is actually legitimately painful. Early game you don't have 30 copies of Hornet Strike or your elementals or whatever, and the only way to progress is to invest into your damage mods so that obviously you do more damage, you can kill higher level enemies. The problem this raises is that you end up not able to fit that mod, like the new upgraded mod, onto the next weapon that you have to move on to, because the mastery system constantly forces you onto new weapons to progress through the star chart, due to certain quests and nodes being mastery locked, as I talked a little bit earlier about. So now, you're essentially reset to 0 every single time, because you're low mastery and you have really low capacity on your weapons. So those mods you just got upgraded, you now can't use, forcing you back into low level missions and the same couple of nodes to get your levels, and is actually, honestly, in my opinion, 100% the biggest reason for people taxiing to Hydron, and the reason that taxiing exists to high level nodes. And honestly, it was a big cause behind new players getting boosted massively on Hydron before that got reworked as well. Being able to derank your mods to fit your weapons again for free, and then being able to freely upgrade them again to the rank they were, would be something that would help a huge amount with this, and not feel quite so much of a huge step backwards when you get a new weapon. You should be feeling excited to get a new weapon. You shouldn't be feeling like, oh man, I just got completely reset to 0, now I've got to go back to the early game again. Talking of mods though, having the codex include more information about where to get the mods as well as what they do would be hugely beneficial. Right now, you have to kill enemies and keep checking that codex to see if you happen to kill one that would actually drop the mod. Until you actually have that mod, the game doesn't even tell you what the mod does. It's just a load of question marks. So not only does the mod not show you what it does, you keep having to check the codex in case you killed someone that actually could drop it, and then you have to try and figure out where the enemy spawns best, so you can go and get a mod that you don't know what it does. It's also unnecessarily complicated, and honestly, if players just look at the codex, they can't see what drops and where and then just go for it. They can't see a mod that they like the look of and then just go for it. once again, it's relying entirely on people to go and tab out and check the wiki. There's a reason the default reaction for people asking questions in Warframe's chat is for people to tell them to check the wiki, and that is because the game does such a poor job of actually giving out the information whatsoever. And I think that this change, even though it's actually fairly small, would help bring some of that info back in-game and actually be searchable by players. See what they have coming up, be excited by mods that they can go for. I think would actually be very, very beneficial at the early game. I do have some other points I would love to talk about. Actually, some of those fall under another video I want to do talking about color blindness and Warframe, but I think I've rambled on probably more than enough by now. If you've got any suggestions as to what you would like to see in the earlier game of Warframe and see like what you would see change, and how you would like to see the game expand on some of the things it already has in the game, I am really interested in your feedback. I'm sure DE might dip into the comments to read some of the feedback as well. I know they do that from time to time. I apologise, I've been bad at replying to comments recently, but even if I don't reply, I do read them all. But anyways, enough rambling from me. I hope you have an awesome day, and I shall catch you in the next video.